Chambers of commerce have stood pillars of business for centuries. Since the first movement that started in France, and Philippe comes from France 500 years ago, and the Kenya National Chambers of Commerce that we started 60 years ago, it provides a big opportunity for Africa to implement the African Free Continental Trade Area that no other institution can be able to bridge between the policy and the practical implementation of the aspirations of intra-African trade. Our strength as Chambers of Commerce lies in three unique attributes. Firstly, our representation is breadth from micro, small, medium enterprises to multinational companies that embody authentic voice, diverse business communities. Secondly, our institution permanence. While governments change, Chambers of Commerce, our relationships transcend political cycles, providing stability and long-term economic integration, as shown that the Chamber has existed for the last 5 centuries. The third practical expertise of the Chambers of Commerce translate policy frameworks into business realities, creating trust mechanisms and information flows that enable cross-border trade to flourish. Each chamber in this room today represents thousands of businesses eager to participate in Africa's economic transformation in the 21st century. Together, we form an implementation network that no other institution can match. This summit presents 4 goals today. We want to boost inter-African trade from 16% to 68% that we see in Europe, North America, and Asia. And the aspirations of FCFTA to reach 52% by 2030. The Chambers of Commerce, especially the African Chambers of Commerce here today, and there are 22 of them, presidents, that we shall be able to utilize this 2-day conference to be able to chart the way forward for African businesses.
To the benefit of the continent and the world at large. In fact, with over 1.5 billion people as of end of last year, the African continent has the second largest population globally, a very young population, presenting substantial consumer base for various industries. Nigeria with 230 million people, Ethiopia with more 120, Kenya plays the lion's share of the African population base. And the combined GDP is approximately $2.8 trillion in 2024. In addition, the rapid urbanization in Africa creates opportunity for business. In urban areas, in consumer areas, infrastructures, developments. And similarly, and you know I've been very personally involved in it, on the critical raw materials. Africa-rich natural resources, including these critical materials, contribute significantly to several economies in the continent and can definitely attract much more foreign investments. But to fully realize Africa's potential, greater efforts need to be undertaken. On the one side, to increase regional trade integration. On the other side, to foster companies' participation, African companies' participation in global value chains, particularly SMEs. So on the first front, intra-regional trade in Africa, it remains the lowest among the world today. So this partially owes to the fact that Africa has very intra-regional non-tariff barriers, such as, you know, red tape, custom clearance, procedures, and these barriers produce effects in terms of unrealized trade and economic growth potential that are similar to those of the tariffs imposed by external players to African countries. And in this context, the initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area, they appear to be very promising. This FTA has the potential to create the largest free trade area in the world in terms of number of participating countries. And moreover, the estimates show that by 2035, implementation of this FTA could contribute to lifting 30 million people from extreme poverty and 68 million people from moderate poverty across Africa. So ICC stands ready to continue to contribute to support African countries, individually and collectively through these trade agreements, with advanced trade facilitation. This includes the ICC co-led Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, through which nearly 20 projects have been so far conducted in Africa with the aim of streamlining cross-border trade procedures, for instance. They also include the Digital Standard Initiatives, which is about digitalizing trade of goods. We have today $17 trillion globally. And this is a very important element for the SMEs to access global value chains. But also more traditionally in our certificates of origins, at the time where the local content becomes increasingly important in free trade agreements, they are likely to facilitate the cross-border trade. So this is one area.
Chambers of commerce are indispensable because they bring a proactive and solution-oriented perspective. Thus, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and the World Chambers Federation serve as vital bridges between government and enterprise, helping businesses navigate risks, unlock opportunities, and expand into global markets. Their advocacy and support are empowering local entrepreneurs to think globally and act boldly. In Kenya, we fully embrace this transformation, and in 2022, 41% of our exports were destined for African countries. Our manufacturers and tech startups are expanding across the region, demonstrating our strong conviction that Kenya's and Africa's economic fortunes lie in intra-African trade and cooperation. We all are aware of the geopolitical situation in the world, but there still exists greater opportunity for us in this continent, even as we work on mechanisms to leverage networks into global trade networks. We still have a bigger opportunity in intra-Africa trade. And the realization by policymakers like myself that that is where the real future lies is a very welcome development, because it's now becoming more obvious that even as we look to trading with the rest of the world, there is a present and real opportunity in trading within the African continent, which is within our power. We can make decisions for what happens in this continent. And it is the reason why we are reorganizing the African Union. We are reforming the institutions of the African Union so that it becomes a fit-for-purpose mechanism for us to unlock the potential of this continent first, even as we look at what we can do with the rest of the world. And the coming into force of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the coming into force of the tripartite free trade area that brings together COMESA, SADC, and EAC, and our own mechanisms in the East African community are a testament that we are understanding the situation properly. So even as other mechanisms are being rolled out by others to do what they think works best for them, we also must think about what works best for us. And we can then have a conversation of equals at some point. And therefore, we are keen on working with institutions like the business institutions here for us to be able to have greater understanding and working together towards a win-win outcome. as we discuss the opportunities that Africa presents, from the young continent that we are, to the mineral resources that exist in this continent, to the energy potential and resources that exist in this continent, as we discuss those opportunities, it is very important for us as a continent to realize that these opportunities can be unlocked better if we spend more in sharpening our human capital. And that is why Kenya, for example, is spending $5 billion every year on education.